Good day, guys. Welcome to another episode of Wake Us Up in the Hood. My name is Marshall, and today, as you can see, our video is titled Concerned Citizen. Firstly, I want to put in a disclaimer to say that in this particular video, I have to admit and declare beforehand that my bias is getting the better of me, and thus I am going to hold a particular view in this video. I also want to thank you for your patience in understanding that, as you can see, the production quality is not the best, and it's not on the standard where I would like it to be. However, we do the best under the circumstances that we have. You see, where I'm also recording from is home, and it is in the living room, because this is the only place currently where I can connect my computer to have internet. And also, whenever I start to record, there's always an interruption. So as you could hear in some of the previous videos, the background noise, I do apologize for that. But hopefully, as we can get this channel to grow, hopefully we will be able to acquire some nice space to work in that is conducive to produce quality work. Nevertheless, with that being said, let's continue with the video. So before we continue any further, I just want to remind you guys about our principle that we said that we are going to include whenever you start a new journey, a new day, whatever, with this principle in mind, to say that everything that I've learned up until this point, including the stuff I learned yesterday, all of that is represented in that circle in the red, right? And everything that I don't know is represented by the green. So in that way, you don't make yourself a fool to pretend like you know everything and run into situations whereby you learn the hard way that you actually know nothing. So I just wanted to remind us about this principle. So this is also what we need to keep in mind when we reflect on the topic of today. And please excuse me when I get my left and right wrong, and when I look this way or that way. I am currently working on two screens. So on one screen is the program where I'm doing the recording. On the other screen I have the feed or the source where I'm getting my content from, that I'm responding on or responding to. So please excuse me when I say look there, but I point into a direction that doesn't make sense, just to get that out of the way. Yeah, so let's continue. Yeah, so if you have seen by the title of this video, you should have already gotten a hint. Title being Concerned Citizen. Today I want to reflect on citizen concern, one of my favorite platforms that I learned about last year. I learned about citizen concern on TikTok. It just popped up on my feed, and I really enjoyed the content. I was very suspicious about the platform, because in this particular videos I saw in the beginning, this person was very critical of, some of the leaders in our country. And based on my experience, just to me, just looked like someone that was planted, to uh, 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 spew propaganda. However, over time, I came to learn, but no, man, this is really a credible source of information. This person really knows what she's speaking about, and I really admire. And obviously, as you can see, she's a great speaker, which is one of the skills I aspire to have, because as you can hear, I break in my speech, and I have all this what do they call, filler words that is very unprofessional, you know. But nevertheless, that's besides the point. What is important is the content on a particular video, and it is the latest video that she covered, that was released today on the 15th of January, and I watched it around 12 a.m. or p.m. rather, and it just prompted something inside of me to respond to that video. And I would implore you guys to go and watch that video. I'm gonna play a bit of it here, so that you can also leave in the comments below what your opinion is, right? Because this particular video reignited those suspicions that that this platform is a planted to spew propaganda, so that we may be misled in terms of what political decisions we as citizens should take, right? Because we all know that worldwide, in politics, there's power, and power is politics, right? Because nothing gets done in our country without politics, right? So let's just read from their website, citizenconcern.co.za, on the about page, right? Because I think it's really important for us to read what their statement is in terms of how they conduct themselves and how they do their work, before we are going to make any judgment based on the last video they released, the latest video, right? As I just mentioned, today on the 15th of January. So here on, as you can read, before we record, the statement they have written here is: we prefer not to discuss an issue until we have thoroughly researched it and immersed ourselves in the topic before recording. We read and write to ensure that we don't waste viewers' time with our personal opinions. This approach allows us to deliver reliable information, so everything Katlego says on camera is supported by credible evidence. In the second statement, we double check the information to ensure its accuracy before we record. Although we may be self-taught or learn through the internet, that doesn't give us the right to be lazy. We challenge ourselves to deliver high quality work We challenge ourselves to deliver high quality work by carefully editing our videos to avoid wasting the audience's time. While we may not have state-of-the-art studio equipment, the effort we put into achieving good audio, video quality, and accurate information elevates our work to a higher standard. Now, to me, I can relate to both those statements, because here on this channel, we endeavor to do the same, right? I will also leave a disclaimer that, yes, some of our work heavily uh, uh, incorporates, or let me rather speak for myself, some of the videos I do heavily incorporates my opinion as well, and I give facts and then give my opinions based on those facts, right? So I am not going to shy away to say that I don't have an opinion and I don't share my personal opinion. In this case, that is something I do. I look at the facts and then I get my opinion and then I share my opinion with the facts, so that people can decide whether they wanna uh, uh, reject or approve of my opinion based on the given facts. And I also advocate for people to rather do their own research. That's why I don't give you all the information. Sometimes I will tell you go read on your own, because that is how I learn, becoming self-taught, to go do your own research as well. So without any further ado, let's look at the particular video that I'm referring to, and then let's reflect on that. No, I also want to add that we particularly also don't have state-of-the-art equipment, Just trying to shoot this video has been a headache. Either the camera disconnects or the program freezes, or as you can see now, the lighting is not so good, but this light in front of me, it's shining so bright. It's kind of blinding. It's affecting my ability to see on the screens here in front of me. But I think the natural light is a bit more brighter. Again, it has to do with the location where I'm at. I'm sitting next to a window, and I kind of like, I'm not able to block out the sun, right? So the best I can do is to open this cupboard door to block some of the sun. That's why I'm always next to an open cupboard. Yeah, but let me not. Yeah, and also I get interrupted. People here at home, they see me speaking into a camera with the light on and everything, and I've been saying, when you see the light is on, I'm busy. They still call me in the middle of a video, in the middle of making stating a sentence. I get interrupted, then I have to stop and re-record. So sometimes the frustration, I'm unable to hide on my face as well. So again, thank you for your patience. But let's go. Let's watch a piece of this video and then reflect.
Here's a channel that pushes lies and supports lunatics like Malema and many other dictators and communists across the continent.
It's rare to hear people from Western nations, especially the ones that are taking advantage of Africans, that are beneficiaries of our misery. It's rare to see them open up and being honest, especially on the mainstream media.
But no one is interested in Africa developing too much. That was as poor as Mozambique 6 years ago. If tomorrow it starts making cars, if tomorrow it starts refining its oil, if tomorrow it starts doing agriculture and transforming its agricultural products, it will no longer buy our imports. And so we are not interested in that situation. We are not interested. So the will of the rich countries. We're talking about geopolitics today. Everywhere we see, there is clearly no interest in these countries developing. These less developed countries.
Imagine having a vegetable shop in a neighborhood full of rich white people and poor black people. For the sake of this exercise, let's say you're a white person, whether you're white or not. In this neighborhood you live in, only white people can afford to buy your vegetables. You make a profit, yes, but do you know what could allow you to make an even bigger profit? Improving the earnings of the poor black people in your community. Your wish then should be to make sure that the black people in your community become well off too. Why? So that they may be able to buy your produce. You want those black people to earn money so that they may be able to add to your sales and profits as well.
These countries export.
Now with that little exercise that she's asking us to do, at first my brain struggled to make the connection between what this guy here is stating, and the analogy with the shops he is trying to make. But what she doesn't do in that explanation is to explain how are you going to get your poorer people to a well-off position, right? Because that is the argument she is making. If you are a white person and you want both people to be able to buy from you, you need to be able to uplift the ones that currently is not able to afford your product or service, whatever it may be. And again, this is my opinion based on my experience, right? As an entrepreneur here in my community locally, in the beginning, my business when I started was very slow. Then after a month or two, it started to become very active, started to grow, and then it started to go down again. And I started around COVID's time, right? And this is around the time when people either got retrenched, some people decided to quit. For whatever reason, I was one of those. I decided to quit because the working environment was detrimental to my physical and mental health, right? And because I want to chase my ambitions and make my dreams become reality, right? So I'm still on that journey. And my experience as an entrepreneur when the business went down was because of these factors that I just highlighted. People got retrenched, people left the job, so the income was affected of the people. So the immediate effect was felt by the lack of support from my immediate community. Even up until this day, people haven't recovered really. And mostly the customers I get now is from people outside of my community, right? So in that way, I'm gonna compare my situation with this analogy she's trying to make and give some insight to why economically the poorer people might not be able to support this white person in his shop, given the analogy she made now. And then the other thing I wanted to say on that was, this other thing is gonna come back to me. So let's just continue watching the video.
Oil, export cocoa, export raw materials, but these raw materials they export are often processed in other countries. And processing is what creates jobs. Congo-Brazzaville, over 90%, only exports oil. This oil is produced by whom? Exploited by whom? By mostly private companies. 60% total, 30% ENI. Then you have a few companies here and there, private ones. The public Congolese oil company is unable to do drilling. It is unable to exploit all of its oil. It collects part of the money, but it is unable to exploit it.
Countries like the DRC have a lot of wealth in their land. If the DRC was a stable and well-off nation, its people would be able to go to work and earn a decent living. Companies would be established locally by the indigenous people as well as by international companies like Apple, Tesla, and many others, for example. This elevates people out of poverty, and guess what? It also means that the people from the DRC will be able to afford more iPhones and more Teslas as they come out of poverty. More people in the DRC will subscribe to Netflix, order from Amazon, and buy various goods and services from companies from all over the world. This is common sense. The exact thing that I'm talking about is how China managed to lift hundreds of millions of people from extreme poverty. They invited companies from capitalist countries into China. They learned the skills to work in those factories. A key thing that helped make this possible was that China itself was secure. There were no civil wars occurring in the country, hence investments were safe. China was lifted out of poverty by the investments made by Japanese and American companies, and guess what? That allowed for Chinese people to have jobs, meaning the standard of life of the people of China improved. Hence, Chinese citizens were suddenly able to buy Apple and Panasonic products.
China's growing middle.
So here is again my concerns with that view. And remember, as we read on the statement of the website, is that they thoroughly research a topic before they record. Now, for me, it is just so strange, right, that someone with a team behind the, right, obviously helping with the research and all that, that they completely are omitting that what is different between China and South Africa is that China only has a one-party setup, where we have a multi-party political system setup, right? And there they don't have political campaigns, etc., where we have political campaigns, etc., right? And what is so strange is that she is speaking of communism in a negative light, whilst highlighting China as an example, but of what they did to help them prosper, right? But then China is then a communist country. So you are contradicting yourself with that statement and that view that you are holding right there. And again, this is what I'm saying, that is rekindling that suspicion that I had, that this is a plant, that this is someone who was set up to be in that particular position. I'm not saying that she doesn't have the capabilities within herself, because clearly she's well spoken and appears to be well informed. So I'm not going to discredit or take away from her capabilities, right? But I am however going to highlight that she is being very disingenuous in this respect, right? Because you can't want to portray communism as something negative, but then use a communist country to use it as an example for your point. But let's continue.
Class has often been hyped as the next big thing in boosting the country's consumption.
Increasing prosperity in China has led to the rise of a powerful middle-class business.
And the only thing that you are proving to us with this point is that communism is the only way to go. For us, if you want us in South Africa to achieve what China has achieved, then communism is the only way we are going to achieve it. Alright? Because there is no opposing political agenda. There is only one political agenda in China, and here we have multiple political agendas advocated through multiple different parties. Alright? I myself advocate for a particular party, right, which is National Colored Congress. I haven't seen you done a review on National Colored Congress and its leaders, so it would be quite interesting for you to do a review, you know, on that. Maybe you can dig up something I personally don't know, right? But that is besides the point. This is not a hit piece, right? This is just me highlighting what I deem to be very disingenuous and very suspicious. You know, when I watch this episode of yours, all I see is CIA. You know, CIA is written all over it. But I don't have the evidence to prove it. Again, that is just my opinion, you know, based on my experience. But let's continue.
Businesses around the globe are taking notice.
China has something it didn't have 20 years ago, a middle class. That's because income in China has quadrupled over the last 10 years. Additionally, more than a third of the population is under 25. And those young buyers, they'll increasingly have money to spend. It's the reason GM now sells more cars in China than in the US.
And again, I'm gonna stick on this. They don't record before thoroughly investigating a particular topic, right? And for me, it's just so strange that throughout this whole episode, like I said, I'm not gonna play the whole episode. You can go watch the whole episode for yourself and you know, see for yourself what I'm talking about. You can come back here and drop comments if you feel like I'm misleading you, or I'm also being disingenuous, or my opinion is just jack shit and out of line or irrelevant. Whatever you feel about that, please come back, drop your response in the comment section. I also want to say at this point, if you feel that you are getting value from Wake Us Up in the Hood, please consider to subscribe, like this video, and share if you feel that this is going to bring any value to anyone besides yourself. Let's continue.
And why Yum Brands opens a new KFC somewhere in China nearly every day. At last count, a total of 3,312. This new middle class is urban, educated, and eager to spend. Wang spent 8 years crammed into 2 rooms with 7 relatives. Also, she...
And again, this is what she is omitting as well. Our government differs from China's government, like I said, in the sense that they have a one-party system, we have a multiple-party system. But what is more, I don't want to say relevant, you know, English is not my mother tongue, so certain terms escape me. But what I want to say is that the Chinese government spent money sending or having they spend money to send their citizens to go and get that education, right? We in this country are not so fortunate in this capitalist country, right? We are not communistic like China is. China is a communist country. Look how they are better off, and their middle class is much bigger, where our middle class is shrinking, and yet Citizen Concern is advocating for us to go the capitalist Western route, right? But she's using the Eastern communist country to prove a point. Why is she not using a Western country to prove that point? Right? And again, it is through their people being exploited for cheap labor. China has had an opportunity to steal technology from the American companies that came to take advantage of their cheap labor, right? So that is how China elevated themselves. They, number one, pay for their students to go and learn and come back and start companies and institutions to transfer the knowledge and skills they have learned, right? We don't have such programs in our country, not in any African country that I know of. And again, I'm going to share with you again a video I've already shared to prove to you that point. But nonetheless, that is how China got to the technological advancement where they are now, at the level or maybe even further than the West, right? Because they are now competing with the West. The communist country is competing with the West capitalist country now, right? And is even more secure than the West, right? And is still progressing faster than the West, right? A communist country with communist values, right? Which you are so against.
She could save enough money for a down payment, and in 2003, she finally bought a place. Her parents helped with the 30% down payment. That's common in China. Prospective homeowners can buy property worth 10 times their income, as opposed to 3 times in the United States. Wang's apartment is now worth 5 times what she paid 8 years ago. There are 150 million people like Wang in China's middle class, and their ranks are expected to triple in about 10 years. Minimum wage will rise about 15% this year, even more in some cities, and the World Bank estimates China's GDP could match the US by 2030. All this suggests the income gap between Chinese and American workers is likely to narrow, meaning the Chinese will buy more flat panel TVs.
It's so obvious that it is so funny that these people don't get it. China's success resulted in the success of Japan, America, and other nations. Remember that China has more than 1 billion people. So companies like Apple became more profitable because of China's large number of skilled cheap labor and ultimately China's large number of consumers who were able to buy their products. Now, if more countries are able to be productive and come out of poverty, then what will happen in South Africa? South Africa will then be able to sell some of its products and services to those countries and also profit from those countries' success. For example, Nigeria consumes South African products such as MTN. ShopRite was also in Nigeria for about 16 years. There are many countries that consume DSTV products across Africa. But you will see that the chances of that happening in a poor country are very, very low. The poorer the country, the less likely the country is to consume those products. So as MTN, ShopRite, DSTV and others, you want other countries to prosper because that translates into the prosperity of your business too.
So here is the video I was referring to. So I'm gonna try to speak as little as possible. So just listen from the horse's mouth. And like I said, watch this video. Go watch the video on Africa Diaspora channel. And then you go watch the video of Citizen Concern. And then you weigh and look at the facts and then decide what information reflects more the reality that you are experiencing today here in South Africa. Without any further ado, let's watch this video.
Historically, sub-Saharan Africa has been fundamental to the global prosperity of the advanced countries. Okay? And Africa had a role to play. It has a role as a raw material producer. We will not allow sub-Saharan Africa to escape that. Okay, we do everything to keep sub-Saharan Africa where it is, also impoverished. It's absolutely vital for the prosperity of everyone else. So let's get clear about that.
So, just on that statement alone, right? And he is going to elaborate himself that they specifically empower the corrupt leaders because they know those leaders will only cater to themselves and allow the rest of the people in the country to suffer, but they will enrich themselves. So yes, that is one statement or fact, I should say, that I'm agreeing with Citizen Concern in this respect. It is our leaders that we have chosen thus far, right? And we've chosen these leaders primarily because we also made uninformed decisions, right? But then we are still making these type of decisions because we are being misled and misinformed by videos like this, that the one that I have to respond to now, right? But let's listen to the good professor, and then you tell me who's speaking the truth. Is it Katlego or is it this professor?
Okay, and this means all the economic structures, all the global institutions, and the economics we teach everyone is all designed to keep Africa exactly where it is.
And mind you, again, she does not speak about the institutions that we have here and the way that it is set up, right? She's only talking about stuff on the surface, you know. And yeah, he's admitting that they had to set up these systems and institutions specifically for this agenda.
And whether it is Europe or US or now China, it's always the same. We need Africa to be impoverished because we need those raw materials and we need them dirt cheap. Okay, so that's the message. It doesn't mean to say that there's nothing Africans can do. Of course there is. Okay, but this is the opposition that they're fighting. This is what it's about. Because if Africa does do something different, I assure you living standards of all those in Europe and North America and Asia is going to fall. Okay? And that is a big...
And take note, when he says living standard, he does not mean to say that the quality of the products and services will go down. The standard of living standard that he's referring to is that they will not have any servants to cater after them because everybody will be equal. Right? They don't have people to boss around and to dictate to them what and how they should spend their time, right? That is the living standard that he's referring to. Not to say that the quality of the food is gonna go down that is being produced. Just that he will not have a maid to clean his house and so forth. That is the living standard he's referring to.
Price to pay. I assure you that the West is not going to allow that without a big fight. Okay, so this is what it's fundamentally about.
And in that statement, he's declaring that they are willing to go to war to keep conditions the way they are. To keep Africa repressed and suppressed and oppressed and underdeveloped so that they can have the living standard that he's referring to.
We are part of the producers of ideology. at universities and academic institutions, we are complicit in this whole enterprise.
As he's admitting their complicity, viewers of Citizen Concern, if you are watching this video, I ask you, ask Katlego to make a reaction video on this professor's statements here. Ask her to respond to this video specific. Ask her to respond to me in relation to this topic, in relation to my response to her latest video that she dropped today. Please. And again, this is not a hit piece. This is so that we can iron out the misunderstandings and misconceptions, so that our people, our viewers, both our viewers and hers, Citizen Concerns viewers, so that they can make informed decisions come the general election in 2026, or rather the local government election, sorry, in 2026. So our people can choose wisely. And whilst you are on it, ask her to respond to the Tafelberg that DA wants to sell. Please. Ask her to comment on that.
Okay, so the job of many Western academics is to convince Africans they have to keep doing what they're doing. Okay? And to show them it's your fault that you're poor. It's not our fault. It's your fault that you're poor. You know? So this is what we do in academic institutions, and I want to show that as well. Just to have a look at one very important additional statistic.
And this statistic that he's going to highlight now is very important. So I do applaud you. Please pay attention, because this is going to speak to the fact that why Africa is not able to develop the way China has developed, so that you can have an understanding to that situation.
With all this export coming from sub-Saharan Africa, how much does sub-Saharan Africa account for in terms of global trade value? We know there are vast resources coming from there, but look at the bottom line in terms of global trade value. Look at that. 0.5%, 19.
So he is highlighting that vast raw materials leave Africa. And for all the raw materials that leaves, 0.5%, just above half of a percent, not even 1%, half of a percent gets returned. So Katlego, please respond to that and explain to your viewers, how do you expect Africa to develop when this is the case? And why don't you respond to this? You honestly believe me you honestly think I should believe that you haven't seen this video yet, given your team that is able to help you to conduct research. I'm just one person, and I was able to come across this video. Yes, we are also a team of 3, but we don't work together like your team does on a project before you release it or before you record it. We also work independently of each other. We are actually sharing this platform, right? And each of our different contributions was able to create what you see today. So we are not as equipped as you are and well connected as you are. So I expect you to do a better job than what we do, right?
75.95% going down to 0.1. Meaning that with all these vast resources being produced, how much are they getting for it? Nothing. Nothing.
We get absolutely nothing for what is being taken out of this country. Right? And I'm just waiting for him to make one more statement before I'm going to end this particular video, because I have another video I want to show you. And I don't want my video to be too long. Right? But I'm going to release this video separately on the channel as well. So I'm going to make a reference or refer you to it if you want to see the whole entire video uninterrupted.
This is a very significant piece of data. What we know, and from all studies, no country ever develops without manufacturing. Okay, producing raw materials will not take you anywhere. Producing basic agricultural goods will not take you anywhere. And let's have a look at how much manufacturing activity takes place in sub-Saharan Africa. We can look over the last 15 odd years, 15, 20 years. And we see manufacturing has actually declined as a percentage of the total.
Does that not remind you of the policies of Cyril Ramaphosa? Because our country currently is producing or manufactures less. And Ramaphosa's policies is making us more dependent rather than self-sustaining.
Percentages of total production in sub-Saharan Africa, how much of it is accounted for by manufacturing? So this figure here is 17% of the total. Most of the rest, when we talk of industry, it includes manufacturing, but the bulk of it is mining. Okay? Raw material extraction. This is the bulk of it. And here we see actually raw material extraction has stayed the same. What has caused industry to fall is the fall in manufacturing production. This is deliberate because we will never, as Western economists, as Western policymakers, we cannot afford to allow Africa to industrialize and start producing manufactures. Okay, so we will do everything to stop that. So relative to the rest of the world, sub-Saharan Africa is going to suffer. Again, why? Because it's condemned to this raw material production. This is basically why. How is it condemned to that? Well, the first and most important is the economic structures. After colonization ended, we needed new structures to keep these countries where they were. Okay? And the first of those is aid. Okay? We give them aid. Aid for what? Actually, we give them aid to keep repressive regimes in power. That's all. Okay? We're not giving them aid for much more except a little bit of infrastructure to make sure those raw materials get to the ports and aren't gotten out of the ground.
Listen with both ears. Part,
we give repressive regimes money and power and guns to keep that system going.
So there he's telling you clearly why is it so dysfunctional here in Africa, Katlego. He is telling you clearly how it is, why Africa can't develop. And this is where I say you are being disingenuous, because you are painting a picture of the Democratic Republic of Congo as if it is the people that is dysfunctional and don't want to organize, when you clearly know that there is malicious and terrorist groups actively making the country dysfunctional so that the Western countries, private corporations can come and exploit the resources. Right? We know that the country's government itself is not going to come and do it. That's why they are using their companies, right? So, for you to make that statement regarding Congo and omit the fact that there are rebel groups creating the chaos, you are being very disingenuous.
This is what it's fundamentally about. All the hypocrisy about transparency and democracy and bullshit like that, it's all bullshit.
So what is your response to that statement, Katlego? Democracy is all bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's not real. Please respond to that.
You know? And at least the Chinese don't enter into that bullshit. They say, we don't care about the whole political environment, we just give the money. Okay? And it's for raw material extraction, period. Number two, and this was a very important one, still is debt. I was telling some of my students today, was it today or yesterday, about Confessions of an Economic Hitman. You remember this? Have any of you heard of this one? Confessions of an Economic Hitman. It's a book written by John Perkins, who used to work for a very nebulous, opaque bank. No one had ever heard of this bank. But it was formed in the 1950s by the IMF, the CIA, and the American State Department. And it had only one job: to lend money to developing countries that were raw material producers in order to indebt them. Once you are in my debt, I control you. Okay? And this bank had 4,000 employees. But no one ever heard of this bank, you see. But it would go to country after country offering loans. And if the president did not accept the loan, they were killed. And he gives two examples of presidents who were killed when they did not accept the loan.
So, yeah, Katlego, you want to honestly tell me, with your team and your ability to conduct research before you record anything, you have never heard of the economic hitman, right? And the fact that, yes, I agree, some of our leaders go and make loans for their own personal gain. However, the majority of them, as you've heard now, should they reject the loans, then their lives are threatened. Right? They are threatened if they don't take the loan. And the loan, as you hear now, is to entrap us with debt. And with your team, please confirm for us if this is true. But my understanding is that Burkina Faso in 2 years has completely repaid all their debt after Captain Ibrahim Traore took control of the country. He paid off their debt with their own raw materials. So they are one of the first African countries that are debt-free. So what is your take on that? Please give me your response on that. But I have kept this video for too long now. Yeah, so I've kept this video for too long now, and I don't want to drag it out any further. I just want to ask anyone to please share this video with Katlego and Citizen Concern. Please ask them to respond so that we can engage on this topic. But I must say, Katlego, given this particular video, everything that you say from here on out, I will take with a pinch of salt. and confirm the facts for myself before I take any word as truth that you are saying, because in this particular video I can confirm that you have been very disingenuous, or you haven't done a proper job as you claim to do on your website. Without any further ado, thank you for watching. Thank you for liking and subscribing. I am going to edit a special video for one of our viewers, Hando. He blessed us with a €5 super chat, and you don't know what that means to us. It tells us that we are on the right track. We are going to also sell merch for Wake Us Up, mugs, t-shirts, caps, etc. But we are going to get that set up as soon as possible so that you can support us in that way as well. And we would like to get to a level where citizen concern are, because I believe we can do a better job than they do. And we will be more transparent and more truthful and share with you facts and not misconstrue the facts like Katlego did in this piece. This has been Marshall. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Wait people, wait. My apologies. I know I said we are going to end this video, however, this is the thing that I said is gonna come back to me. It came back to me now after I just stopped recording. I am going to close with this video because it speaks specifically to the DRC that Katlego used to make an example, right? She said that if the DRC could be stable and organized, and I'm paraphrasing, right, then they will be able to develop, right? And yeah, and she asked, what benefit is Apple and Tesla, all these companies, American companies, what do they benefit if Africa stays poor, right? Because he's making the argument to say that if Africa can develop, then it's more customers for Apple, Tesla, etc., which logically makes sense, and I agree with that. However, again, I stand by my statement. I think she's being disingenuous because here in this report, in this video that we're gonna watch a short part of, you will understand that today one of these big giant tech companies that benefits from the cheap raw materials from which Africa gets less than 1% in return, and that return is declining due to manufacturing declining, right? They are now being sued by the DRC, and the accusation is the monies that they donate to these rebels is what is allowing them to arm themselves and create the destabilization and chaos in the DRC. So Apple made a statement to say that they are going to now stop sourcing materials from there. So I hope I'm interested to see what that is going to do to the profit margin of Apple, right? And hopefully this is going to be a domino effect and make all the tech companies, the ones that are so prevalently in the mainstream, and also the ones that we do not hear of, so that all of them can stop exploiting Africa for its mineral wealth. So let's watch this video, and I'm gonna ask again, if you find any value, please like, share and subscribe. And I'm greeting you now, and see you in the next one. I'm gonna end with this video.
Well, let's discuss this further and bring in our guests today. In London, we have Robert Amsterdam, an international lawyer who's representing the Democratic Republic of Congo in this case. In Goma, in the eastern DRC, Alain Ukani is a journalist who's covered the conflict for more than 15 years. And in Cape Town in South Africa, Gregory Ntembo Salter is a consultant who specialises in natural resource government and served on the UN group of experts for the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, you'll see we don't have anyone representing Apple today on our panel. We reached out to Apple, but they have not responded to us.
Katlego, can you please answer why? I know you're not Apple spokesperson, but I just wanna, just for interest sake, what are your thoughts on Apple not being willing to appear on this program? I'm very interested to get your thoughts.
Let me start with you, Robert. You are the lawyer in this case for the Democratic Republic of Congo. Apple denies all your allegations, but explain to me, why has the country decided to bring this case now?
Well, essentially, Apple's behavior and the activity that Apple engages in is what we allege funds the rebels inside the Congo. We, on behalf of the government, are looking at the funding of the rebellion that is going on, sponsored by Rwanda. And essentially, the allegation that Apple is in any way unaware would have to mean that $1 trillion company hasn't bothered to read any UN reports that have come out in the last decade and a half. There is simply, the defense of ignorance does not work in this situation. And the government of the Congo, having not been contacted by Apple after we sent letters in April of this year setting out in detail our complaints, felt that there was absolutely no other choice but to open up a large number of legal actions.
Let's look at some of the things that we're going to be talking about, so everyone is aware of some of the issues involved. And Gregory, I'd like to start with you. Let's talk about these minerals that are used ultimately when eventually they're put into a mobile phone. They're called the 3T minerals. Just explain what we're talking about here.
So the 3Ts are tungsten, tin and tantalum. Now, tin gets used for a lot more things than mobile phones, but it is used in making the circuit boards. And coltan, or Colombo tantalite, which is the form in which the tantalum comes, is a superconductor. It conducts large amounts of electric pulses.
So coltan is the ore. Coltan's the ore.
Yes.
Is that right? Yes. Okay.
Coltan is the ore.
So we're going to hear both of those
so
terms in this discussion. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So and Congo, and to a lesser extent Rwanda, has a large percentage of the world's resource base of tantalum.
Okay, Alain. I think we also now, many viewers to Al Jazeera will be aware of this, but you also need to give the context in terms of the DRC, your country. You are a journalist there. You were once forced to be a child soldier. The figures no one's been counting properly, but since 1998, more than 6 million people have died as a result of the conflict, not all of them directly from the war, but from hunger and disease. Just tell us how bad the conflict has been in your country and how it is still continuing right now.
Thank you very much, James, for having me in this program. Yeah, for sure, the conflict is still very bad. When you are talking about myself, this is a guy, a boy who was born and grown up in the conflict. and went to school in the same situation and became a journalist covering almost 15 years today, the same conflict. Thousands of people, life being destroyed, child like me, with whom we serve together in the different conflicts, in the different areas, those who could not have the same chance to go back to school like me, still continue, or some are even in the army, still coming years and years, and we are in the same situation right now. For example, here in Goma, where I am, we have almost 4 million of people around this town, and the majority of them are coming from these areas where people were pushed out. And now, when we are talking about minerals, all those areas are under the control of militia. It's showing the scale of the situation in which we are living in right now here in the eastern of DRC.
And Alain, I mean, we hear of crimes and atrocities over the years: murder, assault, torture, rape. Those things are still.
Before we continue, and again, sorry, I said I'm not gonna drag this video in. That was my last words. But this thought just crossed my mind. Why, or how rather should I say, how would these uneducated, as you heard by the Goma now, the people who hasn't gone to school or whatever, they are in the militia, right? They were not so fortunate to get an education. How would they know what are rare earth minerals and where it is located? How do they get that information? This is just a suspicion on my part. We have countries, Western countries specifically, that is able to look at our countries from a satellite perspective, right? Bird's eye view. The satellite is able to look based on certain markers, obviously, whether it be the color of the soil or whatever criteria they use to look at, they are able to identify where are the mineral rich areas, right? Now they go and fund these militias and tell them where to set up. And that is how these people are able to target the mineral rich areas, because they are uneducated. What do they know about the value of those treaties? What the gentleman just said there. What do these uneducated militias know? They are being funded and being provided information. That's the only conclusion I can come to. And I would like to get your perspective on that, Katlego.
Going on a daily basis, yes?
This is the same situation, James. I've been going daily or weeks or a month in the camp. You have the report when you are talking to women, those in charge of monitoring the situation of rape, for example. Women in the camp, for example, around Goma here, we have at least 80 women raped every week, not because they are now in the armed or the place where the war is still going on, but because these people, they need to survive. They have to leave the camp in the morning, going to search for the firewood, for example, or the vegetables around, or even the bush meats. These are the women, every day they are either raped by the armed groups right now, pushed by the rebellion, some of the strongest side, and those rebels now are also around the camps, around the city. So these women, they are sometimes in the ambush of the same guys, pretending fighting for them, but being raped by the same people. So every day when you are going to the camp, when you are asking these people, the team of monitoring, saying, I want to talk to the raped women, they're coming, thousands of them. Each of them want to tell you the story. Each of them want to tell you how she was raped in the camp, for example, because she still doesn't have shelters. Maybe they run away from their villages last week and they need the shelter. They still don't have. And it's raining every day here. Even right now as I'm talking to you, it's raining. And then imagine the life of.
So I don't wanna interrupt the video, but I'm gonna ask you to watch this specific video separately on your own time. I want to hear specifically regarding the lawsuit, so I'm gonna forward this video to where the lawyer is speaking.
I'm going to bring in Robert in a second to explain why your claim is alleging that is linked directly to Apple and their iPhones. But before I bring you in, Robert, let me just tell you what Apple is saying, because they have issued a statement. They say, as conflict in the region escalated earlier this year, we notified our suppliers that their smelters and refiners must suspend sourcing tin, tantalum, tungsten and gold from the DRC and Rwanda. We took this action because we were concerned it was no longer possible for independent auditors or industry certification mechanisms to perform the due diligence required to meet our high standards. Robert, that's the statement from Apple. Explain to me what you make of that statement, because my understanding is that statement came out after you submitted your suit both to the authorities in France and Belgium.
Yes, and to be very frank with you, that statement comes out after when responding to our notices in April that we were going to go ahead, Apple wrote to us and said nothing of the sort. They said they gave us some inane comments about how they comply with human rights and basically just tossed our request into the garbage, didn't bother to speak to the government. And then all of a sudden, it appears to be that they've found the light. It changes the entire dynamics of mineral extraction in this region, because they are certifying that they can't tell where the minerals are coming from. They are basically admitting that the schemes, the fraudulent schemes that have existed under the brand Itski or others, simply don't carry any water. And when you see our colleague talk about what's going on in the Congo, and then you read Apple's statements about how they're sustainable and how they care about the environment, and you hear about these mass rapes and murders going on, whatever Apple's relationship is, and we now know very clearly what it is, how dare they not get involved, roll up their sleeves years ago and try to come to an understanding with their trillions of dollars of revenue as to what role they can play in mitigation.
Okay, well, I think it's fair to say I would like to ask him those questions. I'd like to ask anyone from Apple those questions. A reminder, we did ask Apple to take part in this programme. They would have had a seat on this panel, but they have not responded to any of our queries. Robert,
Yeah, so let's end it there, Rod. Because we are going to go on and on and on and on, because there is just so much that I'm saying Katlego is omitting, which gives me the impression that she is being very disingenuous in this episode, and being able to display this type of disingenuousness gives me the impression that she could have been disingenuous about any other previous video, right? So again, it's just so strange for me that she's making the claim on their on their website, and I'm sure she's not the one who wrote it or set up the website or whatever, but she must have approved it or give the go ahead, right? Because her name is and her face is on this brand Citizen Concern, and on her website the statement is there that they fully investigate a specific topic before they make a recording on it, right? And for me, for her to tell me that she wasn't aware about this lawsuit, yes, Apple has not yet been found guilty. It's still a lawsuit, going to get its day in court, right? But for her to not even mention it and to paint a picture that these companies are so clean, they make their money the right way, right? Here we see now that they are being sued by the Democratic Republic of Congo, right? So again, I am just so stunned that she actually choose to release this video, right? Because this video now shows to me, I don't want to say her true colors, but it at least shows me I can't take what she says at face value anymore. I have to go and investigate it for myself. And I implore you to do the same about anything we share on this platform. Please investigate for yourself before you make any final determination or judgment. Rather get facts for yourself and use your own reasoning, because God has blessed you with a brain to be able to discern fact from fiction for yourself, right? And then again, I just want to share with you that yes, I was a communist. If I have to choose between communism and capitalism, I choose communism. However, I have come to learn that communism, socialism, capitalism, whatever isms, fascism, it's all from the same system. So it doesn't matter whether you choose communism, capitalism, one or the other, or something else. It's still from the same enslavement economic system, right? Just different parts of the system. Hence, I am of the view this system needs to be eradicated totally, and we need to get something back that is similar to bartering, but a better trading way, I would say, because we can't physically trade. We can't trade physical goods the way we did back then. We need to find a new way. And I'm of the view that the richest person is the person who is able to do labor, because yes, I can have the idea, but if I don't have the capacity to exercise that idea, then that idea is worthless. It is labor that makes an idea valuable, because an idea without action is useless. And without labor and action, an idea cannot manifest itself. So for those people, because I heard in one live that I just so happened to join on TikTok, there's one guy was trying to argue how the person with the idea that is his labor. An idea is not physical, so the idea that an idea can be considered labor, I don't see how you make that connection, because labor is a physical thing. An idea is not physical, right? Because without my labor or without your labor, my idea is useless. But this has gone on too long. Please like, share, subscribe, and let's end it here. Thank you.